Greetings, my friends. I am Dictor Van Doomcock, the future ruler of Earth, and I have seen the first episode of Season 1 of The Mandalorian. Or as I call it, The Mandalorian, because I wasn't terribly impressed. I did not hate it, but I also was rather bored during the whole thing, and I'm going to break down for you right now what I saw as the good, the bad, and the ugly of this episode. So it opens up with a kind of a nice opening. We see the back of the Mandalorian as he's closing in on his prey. He walks up to a bar, and we cut inside of the bar, and we see this blue-green guy whom I'll call Norm for reasons that I'll get into later. And Norm is being hassled by a couple of thugs in the bar. The thugs are about to stab Norm. It's the cliched barroom scene. Bullies beating up a guy, and we just know they're going to get their comeuppance, and that comeuppance comes in the form of the Mandalorian. The doors open and reveal the Mandalorian standing there in a really nice reveal, a very nice shot, but it's rendered almost comical because of a flute being played. I guess there's a Native American somewhere in the bar. Maybe Picard is hanging out, getting nostalgic for the inner light, maybe hoping CBS won't be able to find him for Star Trek Picard. Spoiler, they did. Immediately, we have some problems here. So the thugs turn away from Norm and they say, "Hey Mando, you spilled my drink." The Mandalorian doesn't say anything. The thug presses the point, goes over to him and hassles him some more, which is absurd. He calls him Mando, therefore he knows he's a Mandalorian. And Mandalorians, if I'm not mistaken, are known to be badass bounty hunters throughout the galaxy. But regardless, this dummy, knowing he's a Mandalorian in full armor, goes up to him and hassles him along with his tentacled pal, and it's just silly. We know what's going to happen. We've seen this a million times. They give him crap. He goes ahead and stabs one of the thugs. The tentacled guy runs out of the bar. The Mandalorian catches him with a grappling hook and drags him back through the doors, which are closing, and the doors chop him in half. Now that was part of the good. That was cool. That was neat to see. But, yeah, then we come to Norman. I call him Norman because despite being a blue-green alien, he sounds just like a regular dude. I mean, literally, like just a nice guy that you would meet, mowing his lawn next door to you or hanging out at a church social or something. It's very disconcerting. It's weird just how normal Norm is. Therefore, I call him Norm. That was awful. The Mandalorian presents him with a bounty puck, which has his image on it. Norm tries to bargain with the Mandalorian, and the Mandalorian says, "I can bring you in either warm or cold." Pedro Pascal's voice, it is well done, sounds right, feels right, so that's part of the good as well. Lots and lots and lots of callbacks to the original trilogy, which is another good point of this thing, mostly. You know, you've got like the alien from Star Wars in the back alley that tips off the stormtroopers as to where Han is located in the original Star Wars. We see a variation of Luke's land speeder in a side shot that's very evocative of the shot we see in A New Hope. Over and over again, droids, aliens, familiar and new. There's a lot of them there, but these callbacks feel hollow. And I'll get into why that is later in the review, but let's go on. So, yeah, the Mandalorian is taking Norm back to his ship, and the ship is parked out on the ice, and the guy in the land speeder says, "Hey, watch out for, you shouldn't be on the ice." And sure enough, a monster comes as if on cue, which he was, and attacks the ship. The Mandalorian leaves Norm standing out there handcuffed on the ice, even as the thing closes in, up until the very last moment, in which case he yanks him on. And they try to take off, and the monster is holding the ship, and the Mandalorian goes and shoots the monster, and the monster lets go, and they fly away triumphantly. I don't know. For me, maybe I'm being jaded. I don't know. All I can do is call it as I see it. This is not a bad sequence. It's just not a terribly exciting one. I've seen this kind of thing over and over again. And this last-minute yanking of the precious bounty that the Mandalorian has fetched, it just makes no sense if there was any danger. And you'd think the Mandalorian would know that there was danger, or upon the warning, hustle his guy onto the goddamn ship rather than leave him there to be eaten by an ice monster and lose the bounty. But why quibble? It's an adequate sequence, but it does really nothing for me. I never was alarmed or in suspense at all, and I should be. I really should be, and I wasn't. So Norm is on the ship with the Mandalorian, and Norm says he needs to go evacuate his thorax, and he kind of walks out of the cockpit, and the Mandalorian just lets him go, doesn't say anything, and he's like wandering back there, but really he's looking for some form of escape or weapon or something. He comes across a whole bunch of people frozen in carbonite, and lo and behold, the Mandalorian grabs him and pops him in carbonite too, and there you go. A day in the life of a Mandalorian. He lands on a planet, goes predictably into another bar, and Apollo Creed is there waiting for him. Says, okay, you got the guy good, tries to pay the Mandalorian in Imperial credits, but of course the Empire is gone. The Mandalorian doesn't want the damn Imperial credits, so all he can do is pay the Mandalorian a fraction of what he owes him in calamari flan instead. Mandalorian agrees. What are you going to do? Life sucks. So they're offloading the carbonite-bound bounties, which, if that's a standard operating procedure, fine. But I don't know. For me, it just kind of like the fact that Mandalorians do this all the time. I don't know how I feel about this stuff. It's like, it's a callback and a respectful one to Han Solo. So, Empire Strikes Back, that's fine. But on the other hand, it kind of cheapens and lessens to an extent Han Solo and carbonite if this thing is just standard operating procedure. So I don't know. I don't know what to. You can make up your own minds about that. So he goes back to Apollo Creed in the bar. He's trying to get some more jobs. There are only lousy bounties out there. Nothing really to cheer about. He tries to take them all. Apollo Creed says, hey man, I got other people, that need this stuff. And he says, well, I do have one job. It has no puck, no chin code. It's an underworld job maybe, is what the Mandalorian assumes. He won't confirm it. It pays very well, but it's shady, it's dangerous, so of course the Mandalorian takes it. So far, so good. Now he's heading back. He's going down back alleys on this world. He comes to a door, and lo and behold, Jabba's cam droid doorbell ringer guy pops out just like in Jabba's palace at Return of the Jedi. And he goes into this place, and he opens the door, and there's tons of original Star Wars stormtroopers there, which is nice. A guy named Dr. Pershing enters, and suddenly, all the tensions go through the roof. All the guns are drawn. They are in a space Mexican standoff. And, eventually, of course, they stand down. Nothing really happens. And this client goes ahead and gives the Mandalorian his mission. He wants the bounty alive, preferably, but proof of termination will do for a lesser fee. You get a tracking fob on this job, but no puck, and only the last 4 digits of ID says that the target is 50 years old. So having obtained his charge, he leaves this place and walks past, and here's something I have a problem with. Walks by a scene where they are roasting a Kowakian monkey lizard, looks very much like Salacious B. Crumb, as another Kowakian monkey lizard watches from a cage in despair. So the problem that I have with this at this point is I understand that this is a hard-boiled kind of, Western dark series. But my point is, at this point, I'm starting to feel like this thing is slow and it's just not much fun. It looks like Star Wars. It doesn't sound at all like Star Wars or really much feel like Star Wars. There is no fun in this thing. There is no exuberance. I don't know. I think that the fandom at this point is so beaten down by how dreary and joyless and miserable and canon-violating Disney Star Wars has been, that something that at least isn't destroying canon is welcomed as Star Wars. I mean, almost as if we've been so abused that we feel like this is all that we can hope for. This is the best that we can get, and we should be grateful for it. I don't know. All I know is that as an original Star Wars fan, the thing I loved most about Star Wars was the fun, the adventure, the childlike wonder of that galaxy far, far away, and that is nowhere in The Mandalorian. That is not the vibe. The vibe is dark, the vibe is dystopian, I don't know. So anyway, one of the things that the Mandalorian gets as a down payment is a piece of metal branded with an Imperial sigil. Now, this is what he takes over to his boss, his ultimate boss, his tribe boss, who is a female Mandalorian. She melts it down for him, takes the other amount and gives it to other families who are needy, and he puts that bit of armor melted down from this metal onto his uniform. And during this, when they talk about, this will help some families who are down on his luck, he has a flashback as a young boy, I presume is him or his son, I don't know which, being separated from his family, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we've seen this all many, many times before. So the Mandalorian goes to a desert planet, finds some nasty pack animals there who attack him. He gets one of them and then is rescued by an alien rancher who rides up to him and says, hey, you're a bounty hunter, well, I'll go ahead and help you. Inexplicably says he'll help him. And tells him, the people that you're looking for are down over there, and you'll need a blurg to get there. The blurg is these giant alien creatures. Anyway, this rancher teaches the Mandalorian how to ride a blurg. So this is basically the scene in the Western where the cowboy busts the bronco. Again, nothing we haven't seen a million times. And it's about as exciting as you can tell from my voice. My voice sounds excited, doesn't it? Maybe not. All right, so yeah, he's having trouble. He's getting thrown. It's supposed to be funny and endearing. And the rancher tells him, well, your ancestors rode the mythosaur or something like that, which reminded me of what was in the Star Wars Holiday Special where Boba Fett was shown riding this interesting lizard creature. I felt that was a very cool callback, so I did like that. I put that under the good. Anyway, rather than do anything clever or interesting, the Mandalorian talks gently to the creature and pats it and gets on it and gentles it down exactly like a cowboy in a Western would. And so he becomes a riding master of these blurgs. Yawn. I think it would have been much better if we'd seen something different, if he just said, screw it, I'll go on my own, and then realized as he got deeply into trouble that he really, really needed that mount. But no, so they ride off. They ride to a compound. The rancher says that, yeah, these people, everything's been bad since these people came. They've ruined the whole planet, city, whatever. And he wants them gone, and that's why he helped the bounty hunter, and he leaves them to it. So they are down there. He's watching through a binocular telescope, actually. And he sees an IG-88-like droid bounty hunter astride in there. And this was a pretty cool scene. I like this. He's basically saying, hey, I am authorized to get this target. You will not resist. And they resist, and he guns them down brutally, clears out the square. Mandalorian goes down there, gets fired upon as well, says, hey, wait, I'm on the guild. And so they negotiate and decide to split the bounty, and so they're working together. Well, that's good because there's a huge ambush that comes up. And, this is about as close to an exciting sequence as we get in the show. It's pretty good. I liked it. Well, I'll put it under the good. There's a big ambush and a shootout. They are pinned down massively, outnumbered, outgunned. The droid wants to initiate a self-destruct sequence. The Mandalorian keeps trying to stop him, keeps trying to use him as a diversion, etc., and so on. They wheel out a huge cannon that they're going to use to blast him. And with the help of the droid, the Mandalorian gets a hold of the cannon, gets on it, and blasts everyone to smithereens. The droid is hit but survives. And so they go in. So inside of one of the buildings, they find the target, who is 50 years old. It's a baby Yoda. It is not Yoda, but it is the alien race that Yoda is. And of course, Yoda being 800 years old, this baby could be, I guess, 50 years old, and it's still an infant. The droid wants to terminate the baby, and so the Mandalorian kills the droid and then touches the baby. And we cut to directed by Dave Filoni. So let's come down to the good, the bad, and the ugly. Here are some of the goods. Visually, this is a sound tribute to Star Wars and the first non-polluted, non-garbagey, non-sequelized, non-prequelized version of Star Wars that we've seen since Rogue One. So, this is visually in the Star Wars universe, and that is good. I like Pedro Pascal's voice. There were certain action sequences that were okay, mainly the one in the square. I think that the others were kind of lackluster, frankly, and predictable. This one was predictable, but kinetically exciting. I thought it was well directed, so I would say that those are good. What are the bad? I would say that Norm was bad, was very bad. I thought that Norm was kind of pathetic, really. He seemed so normal, so average. It just stuck out like a sore thumb. He did not seem to be part of that universe at all. Should not have been there. It was weird. They should have characterized him differently. The logic of some of the situations is poor. The opening scene in that first bar, where these thugs, these dumb thugs, know that this guy is a Mandalorian, know this guy is a professional bounty hunter, know this guy is a professional killer, and they still go and say, hey, you spilled my drink, and, watch yourself, we're wanted men. I have the death sentence on 12 systems, right? Well, at least they just thought they were hassling a little boy and an old man in Star Wars, but they're hassling a Mandalorian. I question the logic of that. That was bad. And now for the ugly. The score sucks. The score sucks. The score does not feel like Star Wars in the slightest. It's boring, it's drab, it sucks. The ugly also includes the pace of the thing. It is slow. The Mandalorian is not named randomly. I found it quite slow and a bit of a chore to watch, frankly. I was less than thrilled. And finally, the ugliest thing about this show is its feel. Now, the feel of this thing is perfectly okay for a dystopian bounty hunter reality in a dark, grim universe. And I'm aware that this is a dark, grim corner of the Star Wars universe. And so this is just in my opinion. I don't feel that this is what Star Wars needed right now. Is it better than nothing? I guess, probably. At least it is respectful in terms of original Star Wars, and it incorporates a lot of things that the fans like. A lot of designs, classic designs, but the feel of this show, the atmosphere of the show, is a great disappointment. Seeing salacious crumb, or a reasonable facsimile thereof, skewered on a spit and roasting in front of another salacious crumb character is ugly. It's no fun. We needed something, in my opinion, that felt like the original Star Wars, that had some of the exuberance of the original Star Wars, something that reminded us of what Star Wars at its best is, and The Mandalorian is not it. I commend this show for trying to be original, but while I didn't hate it by any means, I was bored for a lot of the time. Can this show improve? I suspect it can. I don't know. I recommend boycotting this because Lucasfilm has treated us with an appalling lack of respect. But if you are that desperate for some kind of dystopian bounty hunter action, especially action that we've seen a million times before in better movies and shows and westerns, then I guess The Mandalorian is for you. I don't know. I was not terribly impressed. I didn't hate it. I didn't like it. For me, it's The Mandalorian. From the center of the earth, this is Dictor Van Doomcock bidding you all, my friends, stay angry.